Welcome back. Now that we're done with the DAO classes, it's time to start designing the interface and eventually write the code for the event handlers, where we will allow the user to interact with the database through the graphical interface. To start with, if you remember, we already prepared the app so that we have three different packages. We started with the model classes. We created with the model package, sorry, we created the model classes there. Then we moved to the DAO package. We created the DAO and the DB connection classes. And now we'll start with the GUI. There we need to create a new um, forms. So we'll select this one now. And the first one we'll start with is the department. Basically, what we'll be doing is simply creating two different forms, one for the department and one for the doctor. In these forms, we will be adding the basic functionality for those two classes, for those two tables actually. So what we created in the DAO classes, the crude operations we implemented in the DAO classes, like getting all departments or filtering departments by a certain criteria, adding, deleting, and updating. So we will reflect that in the form. So we'll prepare the form in a way that the users will be able to do all of these functions in that form. So let's start with department form. And here, what we will be doing is simply designing the form in a way that will allow the user to interact with the database. Um, Basically, we will be dragging and dropping controls from the swing control menu. We will add all the needed controls um, for our department table. I will do a couple of controls here, pause the video until I finish, and then we'll resume again after I design the form. So just to show you a couple of steps here. So what we will be doing, for example, for the label here, we will add a text that would be the department name, for example, and then here for the text field, what we will be doing is there will be no text for that department field, but what needs to be done is changing the variable name here, because we will be interacting with this control in the code behind. So usually we keep the same convention, so J text field, but we add the name of that text field. So for example, JTXT, and then this will be the department depth name. So department name. And we will do the same for all the other controls here. We will also need a table. So this table will be used to display the departments. In addition to that, we will add a couple of buttons, and the same for the buttons. The one would be for adding, for example. Also, we will change the variable name for this button. So we will name it something like this, JBTN, JBTN department. And we will do the same for the other buttons, one for the update and one for the delete. So I'll pause now, complete the form, and then I'll meet you in a while to write the code for all of these buttons. See you in a while. Okay, so I've quickly designed the interface with the basic functionality. So here we will be able to enter the department details, ID, name, building. We have the three three basic functions: add, update, and delete. And finally, we will have here the table that will display all the departments. What I'm planning to do is that when the first form loads, we will automatically load all the departments, and then the user will be able to add, update, or delete a certain one. And whenever the user clicks on any of these buttons, then the table will automatically refresh. So in order to do that, we will go to the source, and here what we will be doing is when the form loads, which means we'll be writing some code here in the constructor of the form. So to better modularize our code, we will have a dedicated function to load all the departments, and this will be a private function. We'll name it load all departments. So basically what we will be doing is we will be calling the get all function that we defined in the department DAO class. So we'll create an instance of the DAO, and you know what, we'll also keep it as a class variable because we'll be calling that quite often in all of the functions. And if you remember here in the department DAO, we will be calling the following function get all, and this function returns a list of departments. So we'll be preparing for that. So list department dep list equal new, oops, new array list. Of course, you will need to add the necessary import statements. So, for example, here we need the utilities, we need the medical staff app DAO classes, and we need to import the model classes too. So once you are done with that, um, we have to prepare for calling the function, and eventually what we will be doing, we will be loading the entries here in this table. So I named this table J table departments, and this is what I will be preparing here. So first let's get the table model. So we prepare the attributes and the column names for the table, and this is done through the class called default table model. This will allow us to get the attribute or the field names from the column, and will set the titles for the columns here in the table. In addition to that, it will set the cursor to the first row, so we start loading the records in that table. So default table model, we'll call it model, and this will be, we'll parse it to default table model. This will be our J table departments. This is the name of the table here. This is what I named my table, J table departments. And for that, we will call the function called get model. All right, and then we will set the row count to 0. So we'll start to 0. So we will start with an empty table, and then we will be fill the table with the records from the DAO function. So we'll be calling the get all function from the DAO. Actually, you know what? I will call it here. So depth list equal DAO dot get all. Let me copy the name exactly from here to avoid any mistakes. So get all departments. Okay, so now we'll simply loop through that. So for department D in depth list, what we will be doing is simply creating a record for each row. So that's the row, and this will be simply the attributes or the fields in that row, the values for the fields in that row. So this will be d dot, and then we will get now the ID. The second one is for the name, and the third one is for the building. So this will create a row, and what we will do is simply we will give it to the table. So model dot add row row. That's it. So basically we will call the function, and this is what we will be doing in all the other functions. We will call one of the functions in the DAO class, one of the functions we already defined in the DAO class. So here we have get all departments. For the table, we just prepare the table and we set the row count to 0 initially, and finally we loop through the list and set or actually add records to the table, one after the other. So finally, once we finish implementing the function, all we need to do is call it here in the constructor. So this will load all the departments when the form loads. To test, we simply run the file, and if everything is done properly, we should be able to see the um, um, the records here. Actually, we missed one thing. We missed to define the titles for the column. So let's go back to our code and fix that. So in order to do that, I think we missed one step here. After we get the model for that table, what we need to do is simply the same way we set the row count to 0, we have to set the identifiers for the columns. Okay, the easiest way to do that is maybe by, let me set the title for the columns, or header for the table, to be more exact. So the easiest thing we can do is declare a string with whatever uh, titles you want. So for example, dep ID, dep name, and finally building. Sorry, forgot. But all right, and finally model dot set. We have column identifiers. So this will do it for us. Okay, let's save, run again. Now we should be able to see the title for the columns. So now it's properly displayed. So we have dep ID, dep name, building with all the records in our department table. All right, so next what we'll be doing, we will be implementing the add, update, and delete button. It will be done exactly the same way. So every time we'll be calling one of the functions from the DAO classes. All right, so let's continue. We will, let me first close this. All right, so back to here. The easiest thing you can do before, let me show you. I named my button J button add department, for the update J button update, and for the delete J button delete. Let me make this shorter, J button add. Okay, to write the event handler for any of these buttons, the easiest thing you can do is simply double click on that button. This will automatically add the event handler for that button. Let me minimize this. We don't need any distractors. So this is where we write the code to add a department. How this will be done? Exactly the same way we did it with the load. So basically we will be calling the function that we defined in the department down, which is here, add department. So to add a department, we need ID, name, and building. And those three values, we will have to read them from the interface. Remember, we added here three text fields. So we will read, we will validate that all the values are entered, nothing is kept null. And once we are done, we will call that function. Okay, make sure everything is done successfully. We will I added also here a status label that will display the result of the execution for any of these functions. If everything is done right, everything is, or if the query runs successfully, we will be able to see the record here. So we will have to refresh the table after we complete adding the new record. Okay, so how will we do that? First, we will read the input from the form, and this is simply by string ID equal j text. So if you remember, we named j text, what did I call it? Dep ID, I think. Dot, let me double check the names. What did we name them? So j text dep ID and jtext dep name with jtext dep building. So let's take this, go back to our code, and then here what we will be doing, actually you can also check them from here. Those are the controls that we have. So jtext dep ID, this has a function called getText, and as a good practice, it's better to trim. So to remove any spaces in the name added by mistake. We will do the same for, let me call it that name equal, again, we can copy from here, string, copy from here, and then we'll do the same get text, and we will trim. And finally, we have for depth building, we'll copy it from here, we'll get the text, and finally we will trim. Usually there are different forms of validation. For us, we will keep it to the basics where we check if the mandatory fields are all entered. So if you remember when we defined our department table, we set, of course, ID, which is a primary key, is not should not be null. Department name should not be null. Building could be left null initially, but then could be changed at a later stage. So we will basically validate if both values are not null. So if ID um, is empty, or if ID is empty, or the department name J. No, sorry, not department name, my bad. If dep name, the value dot is empty, so if any of these values is empty, we will return to the user so that they can fix or they can enter the missing values. That's why we have a J, as I said, we have a status label, and this is the one here. So what we will be doing is simply we will set the text for that label by displaying an error message. We will say ID and name are mandatory. Okay, and finally we will return so the user can fix the error in the input. If everything is done, is entered, then we can proceed by calling the add function from the DAO class. So this is simply int result equals DAO, the one we defined, dot add department with all, oops, with all of the values that we got from the interface. And if you remember, adding is a function that returns an integer, and this integer resembles the number of rows affected. So basically, if the result is 1, then this means the addition of a new record was successful, and we will be able to see that in the table. If not any other value, then there was an error in the execution. So what we will do is the following. We will check the status. So basically, if result is greater than 0, this means, let me copy this from here and see, and we will say department was added successfully. Okay. And what we will do is we will call the load function again, load all. We'll copy it from here. We'll call load all departments. And maybe we can also clear the text fields so that we we don't need to or we don't ask the user to do it again. For that, let me define a function here, private void clear input, we'll call it. Let's call it clear input, clear input. So basically, this would be the jtxt dep id dot id dot, and then here we have a oops, dot. We'll look for the function. Yeah, so basically we'll simply set the text for an empty string. We will do the same for all the other text fields and for the department and for the building. And we'll call the function now. Yeah, so clear input. All right, and else means there was something wrong. So it means that we were not able um, to add. So department, we will say, for example, was not added. Okay, maybe we need to check what was the problem in adding the function. Basically, that's all. So now we can go and check. Let's save and run again. Let's see if we'll be able to add a new department. So let's start by adding the ID con. Let's call it ENT, for example, department name, ear, nose, throat, and building name is block C, let's say. So let's add. So department was not added. We have a problem now with adding this department. So now we need to check where we failed. Probably there is something wrong in the add function. So let's go and check what is going on in the add function. So here, let's double check. Insert into department, ID, name, building, values. We have a prepared statement. We have ID, name, and building. We execute the update. Okay, so the only thing I suspect here is maybe we have something wrong with the values. Okay, let me check and I will get back to you to see where the error was. Okay, so I've debugged that a little bit and I think we have an error in adding the department. Basically, the error was here in setting the parameters for the prepared statement. By mistake, we added here 0, 1, 2 instead of 1, 2, 3. So 1 for the first, 2 for the second, and 3 for the third one. That's the first thing that we have. And then the next thing is we added here the connection as a class attribute, but because we are closing the connection every time, we need to get the connection after we close it. So this will create an issue for us. That's why I will update my code a little bit for all the DAO classes. So for get all departments, we'll get the connection and then we will execute the same for get here. And for adding the department, I already added that. Okay, so Now maybe we need also to we need to close the connection. To close, let's move it here outside the try block. Okay, so this will close the connection, and then same for prepared statement. We will close it. State. This should be done. Let's move them all here. Close and p dot close. This will solve it. Because close will throw an SQL exception. We cannot close it outside the try block. Okay, and then I'll take that also, so we fix it for all the other functions. We'll actually, I've done that in the department here, and for that one, which means I only need to close the connection in these two. So yeah, well, that's fine. So this will do it for us. Okay, so after we fix that, let's run. Actually, I've tried it and it worked, so we should be able to see an additional department. So as you can see, I managed to add this here, the ENT, but let's try again to add another department. So diab, for example, for diabetes, and then it will be in block, for example, B. Let's add, so it will be added, and then we'll see the message department added successfully. All right, so this is done for adding. We will continue with the same. Let me close the other form. Okay, now we will do the same, but for the other functions. So let's go back to our form, and here we'll go for the update. Basically, we will be doing the same. So with update, we have to read the input. So I will simply copy it from here, as that's exactly the same. This is for reading the input. Validation will be also the same. We could also, I'll try to do that in the second video, we could also update the DAO so we can check for the department ID. So as you know, this is a primary key and this should be unique. What we need to do, maybe we need to update the DAO to have to call the function get department by ID. We don't have one, but maybe we need to define a new one, get department by ID, and then we can validate. We'll do it in the Dr. DAO class, so you know what I'm talking about. Now let's continue with this one. Um, so basically we will, you know what, I will copy all of that, but instead of adding, we have the update department. Department was updated successfully, and department was not updated. We'll test it. Also in a minute. Let's also write the code now, or let's test. So run. Let's delete or let's update the diab, the last one we added. So this will be the ID. We will, for example, update the name and we'll update the block. So block A, for example, we'll move it to block A, we'll update, and as you can see, department was updated successfully, and now we have it in block A. All right, the last one for this video is deleting. Basically the same, but now it's a bit simpler because we only need to read the ID. Remember here our department deleting will delete by ID. So after reading the input, we validate. So of course we don't have the department name, so ID is mandatory. One could maybe display a confirmation message if you want to delete or no. So for example, confirm deleting the record, just to avoid any mistake. So what we could do is we could ask for confirmation in the option pane. We have the option to show a confirm dialog, and this will be this current one. The event will be delete, and plus we'll delete the ID. So delete, get confirmation. Let's say this um, will remove the department. And for example, if you have added on delete cascade, then this would delete all the doctors in that department. We haven't done that, but just in case you have done it, then you need to display the proper message. So if this is confirmed, then this will be, for example, a warning message to the user, and we for the option pane dot we select the yes no. Where is it? The yes no option, yes no option. This would be yes no option. And so, and okay, I forgot the equal. Okay, after we do that, then we just need to check. So if confirm equals a j option pane dot yes no, yes, So if this is yes, then we'll proceed with deleting. So int also result equal dow dot delete department by ID. And again, we can check for the result. So if result is greater than 0, this means that record was successfully deleted. We can do the following, copy this exactly from here. Department was deleted successfully, and then we load all the departments again. And for else, we could also copy this from here. Department was not deleted. All right, so let's save, run again, and let's delete the layer. So all we need here is to add the ID, delete. So delete tab. Maybe we need to update the text. I forgot to add a space here, but anyway, this is the confirmation. If we say no, then nothing will be deleted. If we say yes, then this should be deleted. I did not get any message. So let's see. Department was deleted successfully. We did not see the message, and the department was not deleted. So let's see. Yes, again. Okay, no, I don't know what happened. Now we have a department was deleted successfully, and the department is really deleted. So basically, that's it. We managed to create a form that allows us to interact with the department table with all the basic CRUD operations. As I said, in the next video, we'll improve this a little bit. We'll also check for the ID, if it's unique or not. I guess you can do that also. You can try to add another function here in the DAO class to get department by ID, so you can check if it exists or no. That's it for this video. I will see you in the next video where we work on the doctor form. Take care. We'll see you later.